Estrogen dominance has become a huge problem for many men in recent years. This is due to both lifestyle and environmental factors. So in this video, I want to explain how I cured my estrogen dominance naturally, how I healed many hormone-related symptoms, for example, my gynecomastia, and which nutrients and supplements will help you along the way. For this, let me explain my background so you know why estrogen dominance was always a problem for me and why it always played a big role in my life. I basically suffered from it since puberty. When I was around 14, I developed gynecomastia, which is a clear sign of estrogen dominance in men. And even though it often goes away after puberty, mine didn't. So what I did was always try to mask this, for example, by developing my chest and going to the gym. This kinda worked, but it didn't solve the main issue, which was having too much estrogen in my body. I also tried other things, for example, losing weight, because fat tissue aromatizes testosterone, so it basically converts testosterone to estrogen. That's also why many overweight people are so estrogen dominant. But it didn't work for me. I actually ended up super lean, super ripped, but still had the same hormonal issues. During that time, my hormone tests were all over the place. My first hormone panel indicated a clear estrogen dominance, but this later disappeared, at least in the blood. I also did a saliva test, which showed the estrogen dominance again. Now, unfortunately, this is very common. Many men have clear symptoms of too much estrogen or general hormonal issues, but they don't show up in their blood work. If that is the case for you, keep in mind that blood tests only measure the hormones outside the cell in your plasma. They are not reflective of what's going on in the tissue where the actual biochemistry happens. Because my levels were mostly normal, my endocrinologist never prescribed any medication. Today I'm very thankful for that because I found a natural solution that I will share with you in a second. But at the time it was devastating because I really didn't know what was going on and didn't have an explanation for all my symptoms. Okay, now that you heard my story, what was my breakthrough? How did I eventually solve this estrogen dominance and cure it? Basically, I did two things. One, I optimized my estrogen detox pathways, and two, I fixed my copper issues. Both of these things probably sound a little cryptic to you, so let me explain them in more detail. Let's start with your estrogen detox pathways. Basically, the body has a self-regulating mechanism of getting rid of unwanted estrogen. If you're estrogen dominant as a man, chances are that this mechanism doesn't work right or doesn't function at its optimal capacity. The main catalyst and the main player here is your liver. It works in two phases, phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. And this doesn't just apply to estrogen, it applies to basically all toxins that our body is bombarded with every day. In phase 1, your liver breaks down the toxin and makes it more water soluble, and in phase 2, it will attach another molecule to the toxin to make it less harmful and easier to eliminate. The entire process can get very technical, which is why I explain it in more detail in my liver detox video. What you need to understand though for estrogen detox is that in order to eliminate estrogen effectively, you need to support both phases. The mistake most people make is that they only focus on phase 1, where estrogen is released from tissue, usually fat tissue, and then broken down. They do this either with high-dose vitamin B supplements, especially B6, or with DIM, which is also a very popular estrogen detox supplement. Now, the problem they run into though is that if you upregulate phase 1 without watching phase 2, the estrogen gets stuck and cannot be eliminated properly. So basically what you're doing is you activated the estrogen to come out of your body, but you don't have the raw materials to transport it out and eliminate it completely. This is where phase 2 comes into play, where you're taking the estrogen that has been pulled out of the tissue and add a certain nutrient to it so it can be excreted. For this excretion, you need certain cofactor nutrients, most importantly amino acids. I won't talk about which amino acids now, this will be discussed somewhere else, but just make sure that you supply your body with these amino acids. Otherwise, your liver will not be able to completely get rid of the activated estrogen. So that was the first thing I did. Look at my estrogen detox pathways and optimize them so my liver had everything it needed to get rid of the excess estrogen. The second thing I did was to fix my copper toxicity. Now, copper toxicity is a very controversial and complex topic that I discuss in much more detail in a different video. For the purpose of this video, really all you need to know is that certain minerals in our body are connected to certain hormones. Everyone knows, for example, that zinc helps manufacture testosterone. What many people don't know, though, is that copper retains estrogen. It's kind of the antagonist to zinc. Too much copper in your body will both knock down zinc, which hinders testosterone production, and it also retains more than necessary estrogen. What this means is that I could be flushing out as much estrogen as I wanted. If I didn't also lower my copper load, my body would simply convert more testosterone to estrogen because the copper attracts estrogen. So the second thing I did was to work on lowering my copper and to bring the zinc-copper ratio back into balance. Now, I won't explain how to do this step by step because it's a complicated process and it would make this video too long. When I started doing these two things, so working on my liver detox and fixing my copper issues, the results started coming immediately. Right away, I started peeing out estrogen and pooping out estrogen. Basically, your poop starts turning yellow and your pee green. And I also noticed my gyno improving and other things improved as well, for example, my brain fog. Now, before I wrap up this video, let me say one more thing. Obviously, my case was unique because everyone's biochemistry is unique. But if you suffer from estrogen dominance as a man, these two steps that I outlined will always be the same. You always need to work on your liver function through phases 1 and 2, and you also need to fix your mineral issues, especially in relation to copper, to make sure you don't hold on to too much estrogen. This can be a complicated and long process, and you definitely need to know how to diagnose nutrient deficiencies correctly and how to supplement correctly. I have videos and resources on all of this, so make sure you check out those before you go into this blindly.